Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli, the host of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Over the years, after having interviewed so many people on so many different topics, I realized that what interested my audience wasn't really the individual topics per se, but was how it impacted them, how it touched their soul. So I'll invite you all to lay back, put your feet up, and if you like what you hear, leave a review, 5-star review. I'd appreciate that. So just enjoy your listening. Today I have with me a guest, Isabeau Maxwell, talking to us from Texas. Isabeau, say hello to our audience.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Who is she? This is going to be an interesting conversation because Isabeau is one of the leading spiritual coaches in intuitive development. So intuition is a key word here. Isabeau brings deep channeled knowledge and personal understanding to the field of spirituality. She's helped people connect to their authentic, natural intuitive abilities for over 15 years now. Isabeau is also the founder of the award-winning intuitive development course called the SAGE method. And now that word SAGE is in capital letters, so we're going to lead with that, Isabeau. She's the author of the best-selling book called Cracking Down: Adventures of a Reluctant Medium. And I wonder why the reluctance is there. And she's also the creator of the popular online community, the SAGE Circle. So, well, welcome. welcome. Now, the thing that struck me the most here was giving it a name. You gave it a name, Sage. Why was Sage chosen as a name? Does it stand for anything?
It does. It stands for spirituality, alignment, growth, and empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really important to put those components in there because a lot of times we can get lost in this concept that intuition is just reading cards or getting messages when there's a lot deeper components to intuition, which is all of those, aligning yourself, getting alignment within yourself and really feeling empowered in your own path. So that's a big part of the whole program. I wanted to make sure those pieces didn't get lost.
Of course. Now, when I introduced you, we talked about 15 years, and 15 years is quite, quite a good amount of time, but that it is relatively recent, in universal time. So what brought you to that?
It was a really interesting transformation. And I will say one that I didn't really step into voluntarily.
Oh,
so
it was born of a negative experience or a very important emotional experience? How did that?
I love that. A very important emotional experience that was also a little frightening. And it was a direction I would have never predicted that I would have gone. So I was 32, and up until that point, absolute complete skeptic. I was a math major in college. I worked in businesses and all that. 1 + 1 had to equal 2. I was very logical and I was very skeptical. And I didn't have spirituality or religion in my life. So I wasn't like skeptic trying to prove it's wrong, but there was no room in my life or my plan. I love when we have a plan.
Yeah,
right.
Of course, I know. Yeah, we all.
And it didn't fit. And
I was
32. Exactly. And my grandmother passed away. We were a couple thousand miles apart at the time. And shortly after passing, my husband took the kids to the grocery store to get some, chocolate and wine.
Yep.
Good job. Good choice.
Yeah.
And I was standing in the living room trying to figure out, what do I do? Do I fall apart or do I make flight plans? Right. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next because she was like my mom to me. And she, in a flash, showed up in front of me. And it was frightening. I want to say it was loving because it was. Yeah. But at the time, the only concepts up in this skull of mine were the horror
numbers
movies
and the numbers. Yeah, you have numbers.
And the numbers. And I'm like, this isn't real. So she was about 70% solid. and directly in front of me, which I think made a bigger impact.
Yeah.
Because we've all seen something out of the corner of our eye, right?
Of course, out of the corner of our eyes, right? But when you're looking at it, staring at it straight on, head on, is different. And you know, just to make you feel better, I would say 90% of the people who have these visions do get frightened. It is a frightening experience because you know it's there and you can't. Who do I tell? Did you see that? Do you see that? You know. Yeah, exactly. I can see that. Yeah.
But that was my first reaction too. Who do I'm not going to tell anybody this.
Yeah, right.
This means I'm imbalanced. This is not okay because it's not real.
So, but then there's a jump from there to starting your own business. What happened in the meantime?
To be very direct, I was so stricken with grief.
Yeah.
I did not want this to be the reality that she was no longer in my life.
Oh, I see.
That, when she showed up in my living room, she was there for maybe 2 seconds, but long enough to turn, because she was standing sideways, which was odd. Yeah. She turned, looked at me, winked and smiled and disappeared. And now I look back on that going, you cheeky little lady, I know exactly what you were doing.
Yeah, I know.
But the grief was so strong that I had no choice emotionally but to try to determine if that was grief creating this in front of me, this image, or if that was really her. So I wanted to take that next step to give it the chance that it might be, because I didn't want to lose her. And the very next morning, I didn't tell my husband when he came home.
Yeah.
The very next morning, he woke up and casually says, I had a dream about your grandmother last night. It was super realistic. And I was like, oh, wow. And then he started to describe what she was wearing and described exactly what she was wearing when she showed up the day before. And I thought, okay, I'm on board. Let's figure out if this is coincidence or if this was real. And it took me a few months to really allow myself to really, really trust. And then once I did, then everything else started to open up.
I was listening to you and it was very similar in my case, except, and it was my grandmother always, and she did come, just like you said, she was sideways. But the odd thing was, I saw her before ever having met her. She was in Italy. My dad has immigrated to the United States. So I was a young girl in the United States. And I saw this figure, and after having met her when I was 13, this was when I was about 6 or 7. When I was 13, we went to Italy for the first time. I met her, and I thought, my God, that's her. That was her. She was going across, right? She walked right past me, you know, and she looked for a second and then continued walking, you know. And it's interesting that, of course, you were 32, I was 6, so okay. Just let me write a poem or something. I'll take a couple of notes. So everybody gets there in some way, but you get there in a very structured way, in the sense that you came up with this SAGE method system group. So, of course, from the conversation with your husband and his dream to today, a whole lot of water has gone under that bridge. Yeah. What did you start? How did you start working? I mean, in my case, I started picking up my parents' cards, and I was, started reading and channeling and mediumship and all of that. And so it was different, but you're not blowing it up. You have created a method, okay? A method. Now, the method is to help people become more intuitive. Okay. Now, why did you, what moved you to do that? Apart from what happened and your grandmother, but was it the notion that other people should learn this before they get shocked with a vision, or what was the intention behind that?
Well, fast forward a few months in, I finally have an open channel of communication with her. It wasn't strong. It took me a while to get it, right?
So a few months. That's only a few months. Yeah. That's interesting.
I had that first moment with her. Yeah. And then I went to a local Tai Chi instructor because I had no one in my circles. And I said, hey, can you help me? And he did.
Oh.
And he helped me step into yes and no intuition, ask yes, ask no. Yes. And so I started to communicate with her, but I didn't see her again for months. And then I started to see her again, and I started to really be able to step into that. Shortly after that, I met what I now know is my first spiritual guide. And that was just another figure in the in-between. And I was fumbling my way through this.
Yeah.
And he actually worked with me for almost 2 years, helping me to do different things. And I remember he would ask me to do these really odd things, like balance this part of your life or look at this part. And I was like, I'm just supposed to be opening up my intuition here, but I followed his instruction. Within 2 years, I was working as a professional intuitive because I had opened up my intuitive channel so much.
Now, how did he impulse you? Did he present as a figure with a certain shape? Did he use a certain method, sound, smell, noise, music to impulse you so you knew that you were there? What was the sentience part of it? Was it clear something or other that made you come into contact?
I love that question. I was at a friend's house, and they're on about 3 or 4 acres of land. So it's a big parcel. The houses are pretty spread out. And he was in woods, and I was walking down to the driveway, and I felt a pull to my right. I felt like I absolutely had to turn and look into the woods, which was strange. I've been there so many times. Why would I do that?
Right.
I felt this just need to do it. And then for me, with my intuition, the first thing that I got was vision. So I could see things first.
Yes.
In a couple of years, I could start to hear things because I kept working on it. But it was very interesting. And I've run into so many people that you're related to this.
Yes.
It looked like a heat signature. When you look at a paved road and it's really hot, you can see that.
Yeah. The little,
yeah. And it's kind of raising up the road. He looked like that, except it went up and into a human form. So there was this odd, transparent, like heat signature in the shape of kind of a general human form.
Right.
And I'm like, is that an illusion? Like, what's going on? And I went over and sat with him, and I heard he was one of the first beings for me to be able to hear. And I heard him say, "Come back next Thursday." And I was really taken aback by that.
Yeah. In the same place or?
Same place. And I was such a newbie. I didn't understand that there's no time and space. So in my mind, I'm like, well, he's located right there. I have to visit him. And so for months,
same time, same channel,
same time for months, I went out actually for years. Well, for months, I went to visit him there. Months in, I was leaving our regularly scheduled visits where I would go, I would journal, he would teach me things. And then I would leave. And there was one day I left, and I was driving down the driveway to go home. And he showed up in the middle of the road, and I went, wait a minute. He's like, there's no time and space. We need to talk about that. And I was like, oh, okay. I had such a big learning curve. That by the time I became a professional, it was my guide that said, I need you to take everything that we've done. And I need you to package it up, and I need you to bring it to others. That's the birth of the Sage method.
All right. Now, when you say he sort of gave you a pace. Okay. So he sort of outlined your course of action, let's say, right? And so you can pack it up for others. And so you say, you thought, all right, I'm interpreting your words now, right? It was as if you had a calling, and that was the calling. You were called to do this. Okay. Now that's fine. That's usually how it happens. And there are many more guides than simply one usually, but there's a kink in the road, or a chink, or whatever you call it in the road sometimes, when you're doing your things, and all of a sudden something's not right, something's not working, or boy, I thought I was doing that right. Did that experience happen to you along the way?
Over and over again.
Give us an example. If you don't mind sharing that.
No, I don't mind at all. I had so much growing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
how much growth I had
Yeah.
to experience. So when you're in your day-to-day life and you have your personal programming from your childhood and the patterns that you've got,
Sure.
I wasn't even aware of that concept, right?
Yeah.
I was in the grind. I was doing the work, waking up every day. Here's my
Yeah.
idea of success. Here's material objects around me. And it was a lot. And the one that was the most difficult was getting over what other people thought of me. That was very difficult. That was that one took a long time to get past.
That's interesting. That's something that never even bothered me. I mean, well, my husband kept, was whispering to the kids, she's at it again. I would roll on the floor. She's at it again. They were thinking I was crazy. And then the thing that I want to understand is, because the idea was to package it and to give it to others, but you here have a free course. Is that right? If I read that correctly?
Yeah, there's a handful of tools. So the course, the Sage method itself is 7 weeks. It's 7 an intensive experience. Yeah, it's a big experience.
And what happens? I mean, people come and they sign up for the course. Is it a do it yourself or one-to-one or a group? How does that work?
You can walk through it at your own pace.
Oh, so it's online.
And the way we have it set up is, once you have the course, you always have it. So if you need to go in there, and it's kind of like your own built-in mini library that you have. And
so the sage is, again, spirit. Say the meaning there again.
Spirituality, alignment, growth, and empowerment.
Okay.
And that's literally what people walk through in the course. So the first section of the course is about that personal programming. Who are you as your spirit, right? Because many of us, I listen to what you're saying about, your husband saying, oh, she's at it again. And that actually warms my heart, because I didn't get to experience that truth in me, that goofy, fun, free spirit in myself until my 30s, right? And before that, it was, this is how you behave. This is what you look like. This is what you drive, and I was really in that rigid environment. So the freedom of that is huge. And then the second part of the Sage Method course is understanding how all of this works.
Okay.
A lot of people work very well when they understand how the engine works. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So I'm seeing here that you offer intuitive development along with an online spiritual community. So there is the community that people can interact with. And there is talk here of, I'm reading, I'm saying there is talk here. This is information that Isabeau has written to me. The free course is called The Top 5 Intuitive Tools, right?
Yes.
And that I will write this in the description of the episode and the video here. So that is they can try this free course and get an idea.
Yeah, that course is that I picked out the top 5 tools that I believe everyone should have. Even if you're like, I'm not ready to jump into this, just want to do this.
What about a sneak peek? A sneak peek of those tools? Can you tell us what they are?
Can I tell you my 2 favorite?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. I would like more.
No, I know.
Yeah.
One of them talks about, one of them talks about, how the left brain works and, what we can do to calm that left brain so it doesn't get in the way of the right brain in processing. One of the tools is about guide communication. One of the tools is about the block.
Mean communication with a guide or guides? Okay.
Yep. Communication with your guides. A third tool is talking about setting aside the block of your own personal sort of skepticism and how to step into your structure. And the last 2 are my favorites. There's one called Defocus. And I find that that's really powerful because when people get that concept, it opens a lot of doors.
What do you mean by defocus? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you know how we mentioned earlier about seeing something out of the corner of your eye?
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
Well, the way that this entire existence is created,
Yeah.
you have molecules. The molecules make up the solid of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
The space in between those molecules, because molecules never touch and
Right.
they're within the space, in between. It's in that space that we're looking for intuitive messages, connections with guides, because they're not in the material realm. So
Mm-hmm.
when you allow your physical eyes to relax and let
Mm-hmm.
go of focusing on the material world,
Mm-hmm.
that's when your mind starts to focus on the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just doing that, just relaxing your gaze
Mm-hmm.
helps people dramatically when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
accessing their intuition. And then the last one is GCP, which is a ground clear, protect spiritual practice to acknowledge your energetic body, take care of it, keep it balanced. And that brings a ton of clarity as well.
Okay, so I'll be putting this in the description. Another thing I'd like to, of course, before we go, the book, the Cracking Open, Intuitive Develop, and wait, Cracking Open Adventures, The Adventures of a Reluctant Medium. Now, why reluctant? And
Oh,
medium, of course, medium means that you are a go-between for, let's say, a client who wants to know or speak or communicate with a person or soul that's passed. That's what you're talking of, reluctant
yep.
medium in that sense. So explain, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go back to the beginning when
Right.
I'm now talking to my grandmother.
Uh-huh.
She's given me so much proof that I'm finally on board. I'm like, this is real. I've got my grandma. I've got a
Yeah,
direct
sure.
line. This is the
Sure.
best thing that's ever happened.
Right.
Then I'm in the grocery store
Yeah.
and I'm in an aisle. There's 3 people. I turn to
Right.
get something off the shelf and I turn back and there's 6, and 3 of which are transparent.
Mm.
I panicked. I panicked. I'm still new to this. I thought it was just her. And I physically ran out of the grocery store, got into my car, turn and look. And this cheeky little wonderful woman that's my grandmother sitting in the passenger seat. And I said to her, "What was that?" And
Yeah.
her response was, "Well, what did you think was going to happen?" And I
Yeah,
was
right.
like, I thought I was just going to talk to you and me. That's it for the rest of my life. And she said, "No, honey, it's not going to work like that." And I was like, okay. So I had to get over my fear of the unknown. I had to get over
Yeah.
my fear of losing my personal space security. And I had to get over the fear of telling people, this is what
Yes.
I do, when
Yeah,
I had a
sure.
lifetime with so much stigma around it. You know
I
what I
know.
mean?
Yeah. Um,
So,
uh, well, this is it's interesting. I mean, it is so interesting that it just makes everything you've done before that fade away. And
yep.
it just seems so important compared to just the trivial, when am I going to meet a man, or how do I pay my bills, or what,
Oh, yeah.
that's just the
Life
superficial
is
stuff.
magnificent now.
Yeah.
I love my life. I mean,
Good.
you could not pay me enough or do enough to ask me to go back to the way it was.
Oh God. No. I'm
Mm-mm.
thinking out loud. No.
No,
Please don't
mm-mm.
take me there. I'm going to die. If I
Nope.
don't.
I will be all set. I will exit stage left. Absolutely
Yes.
not.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in the book. All right, we're in the book.
Mhm.
A reluctant medium. Why reluctant?
I
I
was reluctant because I had to deal with my own judgment on the path.
Okay.
And
So let's
so the
say
book is,
that the book is
yeah,
is sort of a compendium of what you're teaching in your course in a way.
in a way, the book is a memoir. So it's the first 2 years of
Ah,
me opening up. So it's
yeah.
written in a very fun story like format, but
Yeah.
I'm very honest and very real in that book of what I felt in all moments and what I experienced in the first 2 years and how it
Yeah.
unfolded. And I
Mhm.
wanted to write it because I found person after person after person relating to me.
Yeah.
And I thought I need something out there that people can read and say, okay, I'm not alone.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Do we have another book in the making?
I've been asked that for like 11 years, and I'm on it. I'm totally on it.
Okay.
Yeah, any minute now. Any minute now, I'll have the second one written.
Okay. Well, this has been such a breath of fresh air. And I will point my listeners and audience to these links so they can also benefit from a taste and then perhaps go on to a full course, should they wish, and perhaps see what you're writing in your memoir, which is always such a beautiful. Well, we have in Italian, we have an expression that says something that translates something like a hidden secret, a secret tucked away in a closet for the future. Do you have something there that might be coming out for the future?
Tell me a little bit more about that meaning.
Okay. I'm a psychic, right? But I've always wanted to be XXX. So in that closet, I have this sort of dream still tucked away, and I'm not ready yet, but maybe I'll get there. And then I will become that, Do you have an idea? I don't know, maybe something. Well, like you said, my life is perfect. I love everything about it. But it's not over. So you may have an idea of what you would like to be doing, maybe differently, maybe more in the future. Do you have this? Is there somewhere hidden in that drawer?
Now that you explain it more, it hits right to my heart. I get it. I totally understand this. Yes, it's all I want is to stand next to people, hold their hand while they thrive, while they grow, expand, and thrive. Like I want to lift up.
Yeah.
I want to say to people who were told it's not possible, you don't have possibilities.
Yes,
I want to be there to say,
oh,
it's possible, great. You have possibilities.
That's great. And it's a challenge. It's a real challenge, especially when you have people really want, on the surface, they're saying, yes, I want to, I need to, I know. But there's no clue as to how to go about that because they don't have a guide that they saw, right in front of them, or they want it, but they are missing some emotional step. They haven't gone through experiences that will allow them to declutter their life at the time. Yes. And they're still thinking of, why am I not getting a job? And why shouldn't I be doing this? And why shouldn't I, so they're overwhelmed with the superficial qualities of what we're dealing with. And we all, that's natural. That's natural. We all do have to pay bills some sooner or later. And so, but it's how can I say, when I was young, I used to think to myself, well, money is like nails. You cut your nails and they just seem to grow back. That's my experience. And so I thought to myself, is that a privileged experience, or am I concentrating on other things that those will take care of themselves? Those things, those menial problems will just take care of themselves. And the experience that someone like you or myself have, and you can clarify this for me, is that at times I fully understand that I'm out there, compared to someone else. I'm way out there, and I have to take time and space to do the things that I do. And people who want to, knock on my mind and talk to me, I can't do that now. Give me another hour or two, so I understand that in many ways we're out there, but at the same time, what brings you with your feet grounded is that what you were just saying, holding someone's hand and being part of their development, their spiritual development and growth. That makes you soar. It just makes you soar.
It makes my heart soar. That was the birth of the Sage Circle, which is the spiritual online community membership. And that exploded. We have members all over the globe now, and it's a safe place. All are accepted, unconditional love. Everyone meets everyone where they're at. You know what I mean?
Great.
And I didn't have that when I opened up. I didn't have that when I started my life transformation. So that's my platform to be able to do it. And I relate to you because a lot of people are knocking on the door saying, I want a little bit of time. And it's like, my time is focused in on that circle and on the students that are going through the courses, because that's where my heart is. Do you know what I mean? That's where it is. And I am a big advocate for saying, if I can do this, if this stubborn, thick-headed, non-spiritual human being can go from where I was to where I am today, so can you.
Okay. We mentioned the word medium. You mentioned it in your title, The Reluctant Medium. Do you work with people, getting them into contact and giving them messages from the spirits they wish to contact? Is that part of your work?
I did for many years, but now there's so many in the community and there's so many students that I need to focus my time on that. Over the years, I have now taught certified sage practitioners, and they go through a year of training with me, and now they're going out into the world and they're doing that psychic readings and mediumship readings and intuitive work in their own industries and ways.
Interesting.
And so I've kind of stepped into teaching others to do what I did so that they can go out and help other people.
Right. Good. Thank you so much for this complete service that you're offering everyone. It's fantastic. Isabeau, it's fantastic. Really, really fantastic. And I'm so glad that our paths have crossed. I hope you can come back. Maybe when that second book is coming up, maybe
I would love to. That would be fantastic.
Sure. Well, you would remember me and write to me, and then we'll make it happen. Thank you so much, Isabeau. And I do hope we have this opportunity to do it again. Another interview.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.